I think psychologist Carol Dweck would call this sort of having more of like, instead of like a fixed mindset about something, having more of like an open or a growth mindset, like being able to sort of see things sort of in progress or see potential and not judging people as quickly. Is that sort of what emotional rescue is going to help us do?
Yes, that's a part of the emotional rescue is about how we do not need to judge our emotions, you know, because usually I think we have this very kind of like a big misunderstanding about our emotions, you know, especially when we have difficult emotions. You know, I think we already label it or see it as something maybe destructive or bad, or, you know, something you shouldn't have, or feel guilty about it, you know.
Well, no, in medical school, you're sort of taught to figure out what's wrong in the body, and then in psychiatry residency, what's wrong in the mind. And it never occurred to me until I actually got fired one day by a patient who I thought I was making great progress with. And she said, after about her 6th session, and she was having trouble with her, like in her relationship and with her children and with her job, and you know, we were sort of hunkering down to dive into sort of how conflict reduction. And she said, you know what? I just hate coming here. All I do is complain about my life, and it just makes me feel worse.
Oh.
And it really was sort of this wake-up call that sort of, it's really had been what we were doing, it's sort of dialing down the negative as much as we could, but that didn't have much to do with her mental health at all.
Right.
And sort of, and also what you were talking about is sort of being comfortable, and maybe we do have this discomfort or intolerance of negative emotions. And how can we learn from them and feel a little bit more comfortable and see them as a challenge or a learning opportunity, rather than something to be swept under the rug, or, you know, that we can distract ourselves from in some way?
When we have an emotion, usually, you know, we're never really looking or experiencing that emotion. Right. You know, I realize that I'm experiencing storyline around that emotion, or the object of that emotion. Like, my mind is always focused on the object, you know, and storyline around what happened, or like you were talking about the past, right?
Right.
You know, letting go of the past. So we get stuck in that kind of reliving that moment, so to speak, if something bad happened. And in a way, you know, maybe that person may have caused some bad thing for us to experience only once, right? But I think that person is pretty kind. He did only once. But then we are creating it again and again and again ourselves for the next 20 years or whatever.